Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Tetracast, RPG Site's weekly podcast. I'm your host, Brian Vitale. Joining me, we got the usual crew. We have Josh Torres,
Hello, hi, salutations.
Mikhail Menani,
Hello.
Adam Vitale,
Hello.
James Glazio,
Hey, folks.
and Chao Min Wu.
How's it going?
Well, thank you all for holding down the fort while I was away last week. I was in a cabin in the woods, so nothing bad happened. And I just went out with some friends. They had their family owns a cabin in Colorado, so we were out for the weekend, just enjoying nature, and it wasn't too cold. We glad it was last weekend, and not this weekend for most of the U.S. So, did you guys have a good time?
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Trails and a few other things.
A little bit of trails, mainly performance comparisons between different platforms. Thanks to Mikhail, we did some Dynasty Warriors talk for the most part. And it was a good time. It was getting through January. It's kind of a weird one. We're almost at the end of January and kind of at a weird standstill for this episode in a way.
Yeah. So obviously we've got a few games that are all circled for early Feb. We've talked about this. Obviously, Nioh 3 and Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined kind of right on top of each other. The Kiwami 3 release dates right after that. Probably a few things I'm forgetting. But we do have a few more things to talk about in January regarding release dates, and of course some news coming out of places like the Xbox Developer Direct. We have a few things out of that. But to start out, this is a game that I've seen covered on the site, but I am definitely not equipped to talk about. But people like Chow and Josh and others is the game Arknights Endfield. So maybe Zach Reese is listening to this podcast. I don't know, because he was a big Arknights fan.
RPG site alumni, he's frequently in our mobile game channel Discord. He loves participating in the community about chatting.
I just remember him being like very into Arknights at one point. I don't know if he still is, but Zach, if you're listening, just ping me in Discord. But anyways, Arknights Endfield. Chow, you were able to cover this for us, and I wasn't in the decision-making room when you and Adam were kind of deciding how to cover this. You wrote a review for it. You didn't score it for a couple different reasons. So I don't know if you want to talk about like your review of the game or just your impressions as you got time to play it, what your thoughts are. If you have experience with Arknights, just the original mobile game before Endfield. So I'm just going to kind of give you like carte blanche about talking about what this game is and what your thoughts were on it.
So basically, they gave me media access to it. They basically give you two options. You could either use an account where you start from scratch, or you could use an account where you have everything unlocked, and you start in the middle of the game where the second region's unlocked. So that's how the review process was, right? Obviously, they did warn me. It's like, well, once the game comes out, your account's it's gonna go poof. So do you want to get
higher live so it's like a fair and balance, for people. Like there's no you don't have a leg up at the full live release. Everything
there's no Kuritos in this place, no beaters.
Yeah, for that reason, it's like I didn't like fully do the first region, or I do the starting account. I use the one that's in the middle where it has everything. So that's kind of like my idea.
So let's back up on the kind of the premise of this, right? Because this is kind of the first fully published thing from developer Hypergriff, who are mostly known for as the developer of Arknights, Griffline and all that stuff. And so with this one, Endfield is sort of like a sequel set in the far future from Arknights, and Arknights is a very different game from Endfield, where the original Arknights, who primarily on mobile, I don't know if it ever got a PC client or if that's eventually. I heard some word about that, but that was a really unique game where it's primarily a tower defense game.
I was gonna say it's like tower defense, right?
Yeah, you obtain units through the story and through rolling the gacha, and they all have different roles on the tower defense. Some are supporters that heal, some do DPS, some are attention grabbers where they get the attention of the enemy to kind of divert their attention. So that whole thing is a very different beast to Endfield, where Endfield is this 3D action RPG, where it's very much inspired by that whole movement from Hoyoverse with Genshin and so forth. But this one is even though it's a 3D action RPG, it brings its own different flavor to the mix where there's a whole factory building element to this, which used to be a major um, element in the game where you're actually building factories from scratch and using those factories to gain resources to power up your characters, gain equipment from them, etc. So there's like a unique angle about this game that hasn't really been tried in this market before, right, Chow?
Yeah, it's definitely unique in that aspect. I think the factory building thing is galaxy brain for me. So
Uh-huh.
good thing the game has this thing where you could share your code, your designs, and as long as you have the formulas, then you could just fucking steal their designs, right? So that's what I.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like it's one of those things where they definitely, through quality testing this game over the years of like how will this land for people who don't really want to engage too much in the factory building aspect of it. They designed the system where people can who are much more into the factory building aspect of this game can share the blueprint code of their whole factory, and then people just have to plot that in, and as long as you have the resources to build it, you can basically copy what someone else has already built into your own game, and then you already have like something optimized for you, and you don't have to go through the process of having to do all the steps to emulate it. You already have it because of that code that they shared, and so that's kind of like the concession with it. It's like, hey, we know our entire player base isn't going to be going over the moon for building factories. Some of them will, undeniably, but a lot of people, it's not for them. They're just there for the story, the combat, the world. They don't really might not want to engage in that whole factory thing. But for people who are into the factory building, this seems very robust. It's very much you're thinking about gathering materials and building up these buildings, get putting in some input in the materials and optimizing like the conveyor belts, the factory lines into getting the most optimal outputs possible depending on what stuff you need. And that obviously that'll take time for that whole thing to really flesh out. But
I'm gonna say
go for
most
it,
people
Joe.
use Factoria as a comparison for this
Uh-huh.
game. For the base building thing. I
Yeah.
haven't played Factorio, but when people give me screenshots of that game, they look very similar.
Yeah. How like I know they've been kind of going back and forth over the combat in this game over throughout the the all the numerous closed beta tests it's gone through and so forth. What how did like the final game's combat end up for you? Because I know a lot of people sort of compare it to Xenoblade in some aspects. So
I think
how's
it's
that go?
I think it's more like Final Fantasy 15 to me
Okay.
in a way. It's like okay, so you basically just get the mash attacks, but you have each button like your number key is like their skill for each of the character that's in your party. And then
Mhm.
if you hold it, they'll use their ultimate. That's kind of like how it was basic, right?
Yeah.
But depending on your combo strings, you could like have an extension attack, and enemies also have like a stagger bar, right?
Hmm.
So it's got like the Final Fantasy thing in there. But the thing I like about the stagger version of this is more like elements from different games. Like, yeah, I could see the Xenoblade vibes. It's like you had to do the QTE to do your combo strings. But I feel it's more Final Fantasy 15 to me, and I think combat really shines when you fight like a difficult boss, not
Hmm.
when you're like fighting like mobs. Because if you're fighting mobs, you're just like mashing buttons, obviously, right? I think that's like the combat in all gotcha games. Like trash mobs, it's like you'll never see the combat shine, right? You need to fight a boss, right?
Yeah, I mean, even in Xenoblade, in some aspect, like the strongest parts about the Xenoblade games is the boss battles because you actually have time to do like those element chains, and then it varies between each Xenoblade game. But for Xenoblade 2, for example, you're able to get those element orbs going and then start to smash them when you build it up. Like, and it's like that was probably the most fun aspect of Xenoblade 2's combat is given that time to really let loose on that whole element arts bursting chain, whatever it was called in
Yeah,
that
like there's
game.
definitely like Xenoblade elements. Like there's like one character, like when she uses her special skill, um, there'll be like like her dolls are in the ground. You can pick them up to to get some buffs, right? It's kind of like it reminds me of like Xenoblade 2 when I don't know, when you're doing like combos with Rex, like there's like these little green objects in the ground, you just pick them out, right? And then
Yeah.
so it got similar element vibes. I like some of the things that when you fight bosses, like obviously you have like the kind of like the Final Fantasy 14 raid designs, it's like, oh, here's a bunch of rocks, go hide behind it, or as you get hit from the AoE or something like that, right? And then it's like, if you see bosses glowing, it's like he's using this ultimate attack, and one of your party members are in danger. And as long as you have a skill ready, you can like get them out of trouble, right? There's lots of stuff like that. And sometimes you have to like manage your skills, right? And I think it shines. It's just it takes a little while to get going, right? I think the worst
Yeah, it's
part.
always kind of the you know, it's not even like exclusive to like free to play action RPG games. It's like a lot of other RPGs. It takes time for the combat to really shine and get going. So like the early hours of it when you're getting introduced to these characters, getting built up, like a lot of the combat elements won't really come into play until much later into the game. Um, just kind of almost inherent to the genre in some aspects. Um, but I imagine like the combat in this game definitely has I assume like different interactions between the characters. Like, hey, you're building up one element and you're able to like say like you put the enemy on fire or something. Can you use another element to do more damage to an enemy that's like on fire? Like it has an elemental interaction. Is there anything like that? Like I know again
Yeah,
a similar
there
aspect.
is.
Okay, so
Like,
there's like incentive to like build like teams that will synergize with one another because of those. I
yeah.
imagine.
Because it's like in the review access build, they give you this one team, and that one team is kind of like suitable for the first limited character, Leviathan. Like she's I guess they call her like a clone of Satyr, because Satyr is like in the OG game because they look kind of similar or something. I don't know too much about the OG Arknights. All I know is that if you play this game and if you play the OG Arknights, you'll be depressed because in the intro, you basically go through the moon and there was like all these gravestones, and they're like names of like characters from their OG game that are all dead
Oh
or something
yeah,
like that.
man.
So if you
Yeah.
see that, you'll be depressed or something like that. That's what the fans are saying.
That's kind of like a weird thing because Arknights, the original game, is still going and still getting new story updates and still getting updates, events, and stuff. And so, like, for this game to come out while that game is still going and say, "Hey, these characters that you know in that OG game that's still going might just like inevitably die," and that's how it's represented in this game.
Yeah, I've vaguely heard that this game is not really connected to Arknights, other than it takes place in the far future. Is that just supposed to be a sort of simple but weird way just to kind of indicate, like, yep, this game takes place way after that game, so all your favorite characters are dead?
I mean, there's
Yeah,
some
man.
people that like their excuse is like, well, some people are immortal, right? And technically, that means that character gave up their mortality to die or something like
That
that.
reminds me of when I at Tokyo Game Show when I talked with the devs for Stories 3. They confirmed that Naviru is not in the game because it's like, yeah, this takes place hundreds of years after like 1 and 2, so he's dead. It's like, okay.
All right.
When you play Stories 3, there's a side quest to find Nabaru's gravestone, his headstone.
Yeah, basically, you've covered a lot of stuff, but I want to just bring up one point from your review and what you've discussed with me. You said this is like a fantastic looking game. So I wanted to ask you, since you play Wuthering Waves, everyone I know who plays that says it's the best looking gacha and like one of the best looking games they've played. So how do you think this compares to that in production values?
I think I think they're about equal, but they're like a different art style. One that goes for more like anime art style. This one goes for like the more 3D, and I think this is like anime done right. I wish like more anime games look as good as this game, to be honest. Like it was like the most beautiful gacha game I have ever seen. And when I was like showing off this game to my friend, it's like, isn't the graphics nice? And he was completely sold on the graphics too, right? And this is coming from a guy who spent maybe more than $100,000 with Genshin, right? So he's like,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they definitely nailed like the like it has a definitely very distinct art style to it. I do like that it's it differentiates itself enough to a very saturated market already, especially visually, where a lot of people kind of do that very vibrant, cell shady, kind of almost aping on Genshin's art style to get those people on board. But this goes in a very different direction. I do like, especially the UI design. Like I can't say like how the user experience is in the game, but the aesthetics of the menus itself is very like the black and yellow aesthetic they're going for is really interesting.
I'm looking at some screenshots, and it looks like Arknight Enfield. It's especially environments. A lot of other like Genshin or Hoyo games, like everything is cell shaded from environments to grass to everything. Where this one, the environments they're still like obviously stylized, but a little bit more like realistic.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a bit of a difference in the when I look at like comparisons, the environments are Genshin is more pure like cell shading, and this is a little bit less so, I guess.
Yeah. Of course, this is free to play game with gotcha elements, and there's been a lot of discussion around our Enfield's gotcha system. A lot of discussion from the community, from people who are kind of looking in from the outside. Um, we don't have the time to really go through this specific, like exactly how the gotcha works, Chow, because it feels like people have been making spreadsheets and infographics on how this gotcha system works. I guess
I got flagged on Twitter because I said that I want dupes. Because I play a lot of games. It's like, if I like a certain character, I want a dupe so I get all their passives, right? It's like, if you want a dupe into the game, you won't get it. You'll never get it.
So okay, so obviously for people who may not know in these games, even before Genshin, like almost like inherent to the genre when it was like first introduced, when you get characters in this game, you'll get one copy of them. If you get multiple copies of them, they usually have will power up the character in some way, like in Fate Grand Order. If you get dupes of a character, you'll power up their essentially their ultimate attack. Um, in the Genshin games, they'll add like new properties to the characters and their move sets and so forth, and obviously power them up along the way. Um, so
Most of the
this game
exclusives here-
tries to disincentivize getting dupes in a way where you're still powering up the character, as from what I understand, when you get dupes in this game, but getting multiple copies of a character is almost a shit show. It's trying to incentivize you to getting at least one copy of a character in an almost sort of reasonable rate, because essentially if you save up 120 pulls for a character, so if you roll a 10 banner 12 times, you are guaranteed that character's rate up character no matter what, from what I understand, right, Chow? If you get the worst luck, and that's like the worst of the worst,
Yeah, it'll take 120.
scenario.
Because this game has no 50-50, or your 50-50 can keep going, losing, right? In Genshin and Wuwa or a lot of other games, it's like once you get an SSR, you go to this thing called the 50-50. It could be either the featured unit or someone else. If you get someone else, the next time you do it, it'll be guaranteed the character that's featured on the banner. So it's called the 50-50 system, right? But this game, you could just keep losing the 50-50 forever. It doesn't matter you didn't get the limited unit, you could just keep losing it forever, and then once you hit that 120, then you'll get your character, right? So that's the one thing, right? I'll tell you, my luck in the immediate access, I did not win the 50-50 even once. Right?
You gotta. They gave you like a lot of like roles in this simulated environment. Obviously, like I said, all that is wiped. It's not in the live game that was
Yeah,
released.
but they give me 300 rolls, and I couldn't even get a single. I didn't even get like one 50-50 one. So that tells you my luck. So
And that's kind of been the ongoing thing throughout the community, like discussing gotcha systems between per gotcha game that like comes out is like it's already a losing proposition, because the whole, in my opinion, I've held this opinion for years, the whole inherent nature of a gotcha system, is predatory by nature. Just because one game quote unquote does it better doesn't automatically a better game than the other one. Like it's all inherently who is the biggest loser in this.
it doesn't. But for me, is like if the
Yeah.
game has a better gotcha system, then I'm more willing to put up with it, right? But but we didn't really get why I hate the gotcha system besides about constantly losing 50-50. So one of the reasons is like this game desensitize you from like trying to roll for additional units. It's basically like once you get the unit at 120, the next time you try to get the character, it goes to like 240. So you're like, oh, you want to dupe? No, you want it's 240, and the worst part is they make all these currencies are limited. Like in other games, you could save up whatever currency you have, but this game really wants you that if you got the currency, you had to spend it within this banner. So it's like trying to drive up FOMO, and you become
carry
very
over pity. So like let's say you saved up pity to like 110. That wouldn't carry over to like the next banner. It would restart
no.
at 0. Got it.
Yes. So
Okay.
it's either or nothing. So there's no 50-50 or constant 50-50 loses, and then currencies are constantly limited that you earn, and any free currency that you earn, it's also limited, so you have to spend it within the banner. So it's very hard to save. And then it's like, it's because it doesn't
It's kind of a weird one, right? Because like there's so many different things that Endfield is doing. Because so like let's say if you like, it feels like the most quote unquote healthy. I'm very heavily quoting the unhealthy there. Mentality or approach to this is like, hey, if you want a future unit, save up 120. Don't roll until this unit is unfeatured, so at least you can guarantee it.
Yeah.
But along the way, like what it's doing right now is the next 2 rate up characters coming to this game are already in that pool in the game, so you could accidentally get future characters that are going to be on rate up in this game, from what I understood in research. So like the next 2 characters on rate up is already in that pool that you can roll in the game, so you can accidentally get future rate up characters right now as you're rolling to get the current rate up characters, so you can accidentally get them, which is a weird ripple to it. And and there's also weird like other systems in the game where if you reach a certain, like say 30, I forgot, it's like 20 or 30 characters, they'll give you an extra 10 rolls, but those 10 rolls don't count into the pity. It's just like a free 10 roll, but it doesn't like count into the overall pity that like you're working towards, which is also weird. And then you also throw into the mix of like how the weapon, the separate weapon banner, goes into the mix, and how are those high rarity weapons worth rolling on for the character that you're going for as well. And that gets into
Trust
murky
me, like
territory.
it gets very confusing. There's like
Yeah.
so many different currencies in the game. I'm like, could you just make it simple and just have like just 1 or 2 currency and call it a day?
Well, this is how they get you. This is how free to play games get you, where they have so many currencies. Like they they try to confuse players deliberately.
I think there
spending
was
into
like
them.
10 different currencies. There's a currency from rolling, and it's spent, and once you roll, you get like this blue currency. It's called the arsenal ticket or something, and then that currency can be used for like buying weapons or something, and then it'll be like, oh, and then if you have extra dupes, you have to like manually convert it to the same kind of currency. It's like there's so many.
There's not a problem exclusive to this game. I just want to make that clear. There's not to single out Enfield for doing this. Like many other games of the genre do a very similar thing, where the currency that you're buying is then converted to like, say, like, another currency that's the one that's actually used to roll the banner. It's very
Yes, of course.
yeah, it's
but
very
I mean,
universal.
You can
which
trace
sucks.
that all the way back to like Microsoft points. Remember that era?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
$10 was 800 points or whatever, so it was never like a clean match. And I'm sure like
Yes.
that's not even the genesis of that either. That's just
For
I think
sure.
my formative
Yeah,
one of thinking about that.
people say
It's
that
very
the research
economics
is just
101 of like maximizing, profit from people.
But
It's
yeah,
just-
I feel like this game just took like every greedy approach and just crank it up. It's like, yeah, it's like it's bad, but let's just crank it up to 11. It's like, okay. And then that's basically what you get. It's like, obviously, if you like the game, you're just gonna put up with it, right? I'm just saying, I'm not gonna spend money on this game. And
Yeah.
after the whole debacle of what happened when the game first launched, like this game
Yeah,
basically had like the perfect launch. The game was so well optimized. The servers run like smooth as butter. It's like it is like the perfect launch, except the fact that the one thing, the most important thing, the PayPal payment system.
Yeah.
So
So the there was a really I'm kind of surprised that like this wasn't more widely reported, because this is liable to legal ramifications for that studio moving forward. Like this is not the end of the story, but when this game first launched, well, of course if people want to put money into the game to get currency, many players do this from the get go. They obviously, if they're on mobile, they use Apple Store or the Google Play Store as their payment processors if they're playing on mobile. If you were playing on PC? One of the ways you can pay is through PayPal, and the PayPal integration with this game was very busted at launch. Where it was basically a huge security leak and breach. Where if you linked your PayPal account into this game, people had free access to your PayPal too. You would see charges in other currencies or the same currency, and it was basically people's purchases could show up in your account. So many people, if they had their PayPal linked, they would see other purchases they did not make in their PayPal. So they saw like purchases of like people purchasing like the monthly pass or battle pass in different currencies in their account. And that's like really fucking scary because you didn't know when this was going to end. Like, so it was like not just from another person's account, it was like multiple people's accounts, and they're using your PayPal account. Thankfully, they caught on to it relatively quickly, so they shut down the PayPal option to make payments. But it's one of those things where this is such a like. It's not even like the problems with this is not even just that. It was also, for instance, one of the reported problems is when you're purchasing like the monthly pass or battle pass, it would charge you incorrect amounts of that. So let's say this $10 battle pass, you choose to pay for it, it would charge you like $1,300 in one case, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? You clearly did not pay that amount for this very little thing. That was also one of the reported problems with this whole debacle. And at that point, many other quote unquote normal game companies would immediately shut down their game to investigate this problem and fix it entirely. What they did instead was just, oh, we'll just shut down the PayPal payment processor and keep the servers live and everything live in it. And that to me is insanity. Like, it's like there's already a huge security risk, and what you're basically and what they told people is like, oopsie, sorry, please use another payment processor for a very serious diabolical issue with the game. Because they were just like, oh, just keep on, because they didn't want to shut down their revenue stream. They didn't want to look bad to people.
And they kept pretty silent about it, which is it tells me all you need to know.
It's weird that like people don't make a bigger issue out of this, because I'm like, that's a really serious problem. And
I think they didn't care, because to them PayPal is an international company. To them, it's like this is a Chinese company that made the game, so that's not the main concern. If the Chinese payment system had a problem like WeChat or something, or Alipay, I think then they'll be like, oh, we gotta shut this off. But it's PayPal, so it feels like it's just like a useless.
So there's definitely been reported cases out there where people lost thousands upon thousands of dollars through this fucking quote unquote bug. I mean, it is a bug, yes.
And some people are completely screwed too. It's like if they didn't get the refund in time and they have rent due, well,
yeah.
Oh,
overdraft fees. They're not gonna fucking
Yeah, they're not gonna refund that either.
Fees. Yeah.
So
but I mean, they eventually, like a day or two later, did issue full refunds of legitimate and illegitimate purchases, but that doesn't cover like obviously overdraft fees or people who got completely screwed, because some people have their bank tied to PayPal. So if they don't have a PayPal balance, it'll charge their bank balance instead, and that is bad. That is simply like, it's really shameful. And to me personally, no, not judging people who like play this game still. I'm just like, I would be seriously concerned every minute, every second I'm playing this game moving forward, because of a thing like this. Like, if they have security breaches like this already, like how can you trust this company, man? I'm just saying.
I mean, it can't really affect the iOS and Android payments because those you have to like manually authorize on those things. It's not like an account once it get access for authorized payments, you have to like do it literally every time. So I think those would be fine, but I get your point that this is something which they need to like put out a proper statement and like say that this will never happen again. Not this goes beyond just giving people like free roles, basically.
This is beyond comment. This is like I have to imagine someone at that company is gonna face very, very, very severe consequences behind the scenes for this fuck up. Maybe multiple people, and this will have ongoing like legal ramifications down the road for that company that will happen behind the scenes because they don't want to, look bad in front of people. Like there will probably be, court matters, for this fucking debacle. Rightly so, because I can't imagine how many people got fucking screwed over, potentially life ruining, and we just will never hear of those stories behind the scenes. But they should come to light, it really should be. I just felt really weird, like
It shouldn't just be an oopsies.
yeah. That's how it's like to me, it's like really weirdly silent. It's like, man, not a lot of people are like publicly reporting this. Like that's crazy. Like, this is kind of one of the biggest things that's happened in this space.
I guess in their
But it's not a small game either. Like
Yeah,
this had like 35 million pre-registrations. That's like bigger than most games would like get in general throughout their lifetime. So it's not a small game.
I mean, obviously, like it is definitely for the PR people there. It is their best interest to cover this up as much as possible. Obviously, and that is, understandably so. They're trying to cover this up as much as possible. But I think more people should do their due diligence, kind of making this more widely available. And I mean, like spreading this info in a more public manner. Like I think that's the responsible thing to do. It's like, hey,
There's not really
be careful.
precedent for it, but I'm wondering if like they could do almost like is post-mortem the right word, where they say like, here was the technical issue that led to this, and here's how we're correcting it. Like
Yeah, they
something
should
along
do
those
that.
lines.
Yeah.
That would be how you would address it.
I like to me. I think that the more responsible thing is like releasing like a public statement and doing like,
Mhm.
hey, yeah, and like and
Like,
like, going for,
yeah,
a
like the detailed technical would be like a part of like that
yeah,
front-facing statement.
yeah, and that's something that shouldn't be coming like even if you're planning to do it, that shouldn't be something that you do like a week after. You should be trying to do that as soon as possible. Not don't keep people in the dark, deliberately. So that's how it is. And for many people, it's like, well, it didn't affect me, so who cares? That's the majority's stance on it. It's like, yeah, I wasn't screwed over, so I'm fine.
You know who wins in this situation is the people that hack. So basically, if you were able to cheat someone's account, you get to keep all that stuff because they're not going to, try and take your stuff away, right?
It's kind of a weird scenario because, like, in order to quote unquote be as part of it in the first place, you need to have your PayPal vulnerable in it. It's just kind of a weird, bad scenario all around.
Just independent of everything else, which I know is a loaded statement. Like, if I wanted to play this game and not spend a dime, like, what's my experience like?
Well, you just don't get the cool characters that they will feature all the time. You just gotta suffer through that. That's
It's well, I guess it's one of those things like there's not this game hasn't been out for so long that people don't really know the free to play currency or the currency that they're giving out on a monthly basis. So it's hard to find like what the pattern is going to be. But as of right now, and unfairly so to this game, it's too much in its infancy to really know like what's going to be like the monthly income of the currency to roll characters. Obviously, out of the gate, people are in their honeymoon period where it's like, wow, they give out a lot of freebies. They're giving out like 130 plus rolls for for free.
People are pretty mad out there. People said that the whole currency sucks in this game. You don't even earn that much. In fact, you had to clear out the entire game from beginning to end to even get like 200 rolls.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. That was part of the rationale for making this kind of an unscored review, because it's like a service game, it's a gacha game. Just putting a number on it at day zero just really doesn't seem, regardless of monetization or anything, just like how do you put a number on something like that when you kind of need to see like what's the game going to be like in 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, if it's going to have like a tail like that.
That's always that kind of weird thing, but like reviewing games as a service, games in general, because like the games will inherently change over time.
Mhm.
So putting a numerical score on these games at any point in their lifetime is like, it could be a 5 out of 10 off the gate, and then like version 2.0 will hit and it'll become a 7 to 8 out of 10, and then version 2.3 will come out, and then it like they'll do changes and it'll feel like a 4 out of 10 game. Like, how do you even put a
Or
fucking
it could be like
score on these games?
Phantasy Star New Genesis, where 1.0 comes out and it's not very good, and 2.0 comes out and still not very good. And
And yeah, that's also a weird thing to like evaluate. Is like, how does this game's gacha system compare to other games' gacha? Is it better? Is it worse? Am I getting screwed over less than other games? It's like, how do you even evaluate that as well?
It's like, you know, but I feel justified. You know, like,
Yeah.
when
I
I
mean,
see like people agreeing with me, like
at the end of the day, a review is how you feel. Like, you know, how, like when you're evaluating a game, how do you feel about the game? Like, you're like, there's no review that's going to be objective about a fucking game. Like, inherently, it's like, a review at the end of the day is like, hey, how do you feel about the game? Do you feel as good as bad? What are the good aspects to you? What are the bad aspects to you? What are the aspects that didn't, you know, really? That's all a review is.
it's
At the
always
end of
been
the
a
day.
substantiated opinion. Like, yeah, like you
Yeah.
need to provide evidence, but it doesn't mean your opinion's a fact. It's just a substantiated opinion. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but I think I did my job right. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like I
So,
think
Chow's
of-
review is up on rpgsite.net for Arknights Enfield. So blame him in the comments if you don't agree.
Yeah. You know, but hey, but in general though, like beyond, you know, the really, 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 really awful things, especially with the PayPal stuff, it is impressive that like, hey, this is a well optimized game, both on PC and mobile. Like there is like they found a really solid foundation to build the game upon. You don't have to like wait for like weird optimization fixes. It's like, hey, this is from the get go. Obviously, there could obviously there are always going to be like improvements you can make, but they are starting from a good spot optimization wise on all the platforms that they released on.
I even got the game like running on my Android tablet, and man, this game is still beautiful on my tablet. Obviously, this tablet has the top of the line specs on it, but you know, it plays as it looks 70% as good as it is on PC. So I think
Which is better than most games, like, you know, who in the space that try to like, you know, like I remember like I remember like Wuthering Waves 1.0 on mobile was like fucking dire, you know. Holy
like,
shit!
I wish like Dual Night Abyss looks half as good as the game. Sorry.
Yeah, like game has so many fucking problems that I don't. That game is like it's like it is in purgatory right now. Like I don't know how they're gonna turn things around. They have so many things.
Yeah, people are not happy in the current state of the game, but I still keep playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I play it once in a while. I think yesterday was the first time I didn't like boot up that game at all.
It's like rip.
Well, I mean, I'll still play it, but I'm just like kind of I don't. You don't have to play that game day to day, which is or daily, which is the nice part about it. Is like you don't have to do a daily login and feel like you're missing out. Really.
Imagine that's the lesson take here. But anyways, yeah, Arknights. I love everything about this game except for the gacha, and now even like the payment system.
Yeah, the monetization aspect is its worst part. Like most of these games, crazy. I know. But I mean, it's cool that it's doing its own thing with the whole factory thing and the way that you can like pop up like zip lines in the game and you can like travel like almost like Death Stranding in a way where you can like kind of traverse through the game through zip lines that you made.
I will say, as someone who doesn't really touch gacha games much, like I will say that the building aspect does really help Enfield stand out. Like, oh yeah, this is that one. Where some of the other ones, like Ananta versus Zenless Zone Zero, like I kind of get like confused in my head because I see them as too similar on their face. But this one's like, oh, this is the one that has the building mechanic, which I know is not the only one that has something like that, but it does help distinguish it. IMO.
It is definitely funny that like when people like share something about the game for Enfield, it's like they're sharing their factory layouts versus like, hey, look at my team setup or whatever. It's like, no, here's my fucking factory layout, and that's kind of like the most popular thing that people are sharing. Is like, this is how I optimize like my factory for this thing. It's like, that's funny. That's cool.
Yeah, I even got friends that got into this game and they're getting into it for the factory building thing. I didn't really like the factory building for me personally because there was so much tutorial because the game is trying to like handhold you
Yeah.
to the max on the factory building part, right? It'll be like, oh, you had to build a power grid, you had to do this, and then you had to make sure the lines are connected properly. It's like like it has
My
different
brain
rules.
just does not wire in that like games like Starfield and Fallout 4 and 76 that had like all those like like light building mechanics where I'm like, how do I apply power to my windmill? And then I go online and someone's like, I built this giant fortress with 18 layers and movable floors that I'm just like, I'm gonna go to the other part of the game because my
Yeah, but
brain does not do this.
I can definitely understand like why it feels over tutorialized because they're so afraid of people like just bouncing off of the game if they don't know what to do in that game. And
Yeah.
you know, there are some people that will never get the factory and the aspect no matter how many tutorials and force tutorials.
Yeah,
you
I
do.
would not engage with it. I would just steal someone else's design. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for basically the anime look. I think this game it's beautiful, and I think I just want to get into the game just for that alone.
It's kind of like in a weird like here's my impression of Arknights Endfield. It's like the most fleshed out part about it. Like if you were to take out one system in that game, that's the most fleshed out. It is that factory building aspect, and everything else in comparison feels like it doesn't feel as fleshed out as the factory building aspect of that game. But it's kind of like the weird thing. It's like so if you're just gonna like use someone else's blueprint to optimize everything, and you don't want to put any thought into the factory aspect, what you're left with is less fleshed out aspects of that game, which is like it's too early in its story to really flesh out like where it's heading, and the combat itself and the characters that the way that their kits are um designed. It's not like it feels like the story, the characters, the combat, they were a means to an end, which is the factory of that game. It really does feel like, hey, they really thought a lot about like how to flesh out the factory system in that game and the factory building at the expense of everything else. Kind of feels half baked in service of that. That's what I think.
Go ahead and check out Arknights Endfield review from Chow up on rpgsite.net. And I don't know if it's got a presence in like our Discord, like Mobits chat.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if
people are
Mobits is the
definitely
right
playing
place
it.
for it.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
people are
cool.
playing
Yeah,
it.
the
So
mobile game
if you're
people
playing
are
it,
definitely playing it. Yeah.
all right, cool. Good to know that there's like a community there.
It got like our Mobage channel is a wonderful blending of like pleasant communities because there's definitely an Uma Musume community there. There's a Fate Grand Order community. They're very active there. It's kind of like an interesting blend of like new and old. If there is like a somewhat popular mobile game, there's definitely at least one or two people in there playing it.
It's kind
Which
of
is
sad
cool.
that all the game that I play, no one talks about it anymore. No one barely talks about Honkai Star Rail. No one plays Epic 7. Nobody plays Grand Blue except one guy. So
Except one
it feels-
guy. I don't like I tune into Do It Night Abyss once in a while, but it's not like I'm just
yeah, no one talks about it just for me and you. So
yeah. I don't know. I just kind of like not in that chase. Like I feel like the next one I'll think about the trying out is Ananta and what was the Neverness to Everness. I think I'll try. Maybe I'll try.
I'm thinking about playing Silver Palace. That's about it.
I don't know yet about Silver Palace. I feel like the combat isn't. It's too early, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I will. But at the end of the day, if there's like at least representation to those games, it's usually you and me, Chow, who will dip our toes into them. It's like we're stupid enough to try them. Why not?
And that was the main game that we had circled to talk about this week. Mikhail, did you want to talk about your what you had finished before the podcast? Just as a side conversation as a tangent.
So yeah, there's this game from Ad Hoc Studio called Dispatch, which I thought was just going to be because Ad Hoc Studio has a lot of people who worked on Telltale's The Walking Dead, which I enjoyed a lot. But then I also thought most of the games Telltale made after that were quite bad, and they made this Game of Thrones game, which I think is one of the worst games I've played in my life, and it was the one game which got me to stop doing trophies, like going for 100% completion, because that game was just a waste of time. But I heard a lot of good stuff about this game called Dispatch, and I thought it was going to be the same thing. So I finally got around to it, and it's actually kind of interesting. It's like a blend of it's a superhero comedy game, but it actually has this management simulation aspect where you play as a dispatcher who sends out like a team of superheroes depending on what uh, basically crimes are taking place in the city. All people need help and stuff like that, and you're just sending out your superhero team based on what skills they have, and you get like a rating at the end of it. And I didn't expect a simulation thing like this, because when my friend told me, oh, there's some gameplay but it's still mostly like a decision making thing, and I thought it was just going to be like a TV show where you know, like The Walking Dead, one of those things. But no, I played half of it, like as of this recording. Like I spent most about 4 hours on it today. I thought I would finish it before we record, but just got busy with some other stuff. Enjoying it a lot. Like I absolutely recommend it if you have access to like playing games on Steam or PS5. It's coming out on Switch 1 and 2 next week, but I've been playing the Steam version mainly today at least. So I recommend looking into it at least. It's kind of this like I've seen some people say it's like cringe writing or whatever, but I don't know. I like Life is Strange a lot. I've played all of those games, and I'm enjoying like playing this as a break between long and like complex RPGs. And I also have been like playing Inazuma 11, but I'll get to that when I actually finish it for my review. But yeah, Dispatch, enjoying it a lot. I might talk about it a bit when I finish it when we record next week. But so far, it's impressing me a lot, and I'm glad I'm finally getting around to it. So yeah.
And
I haven't
Dispatch, I
I
know,
haven't
has
wish
been
listed.
making like it's been like seemingly a good word of mouth, and it kind of made a lot of appearances at different like end of year game awards, you know, showcases and streams and lists.
The one interesting thing is, like, you know, episodic games, I just roll my eyes now when that happens, and I'm like, just release the whole thing. I don't want to like play stuff based on one of these things. But this is one of those rare episodic games that kept like exploding every single time a new episode reached, and this like the Steam CCU just kept going up, unlike usually how these things go. So in this
It's
case, I guess it worked for them.
it kind of helps because that whole thing was already done before it released, so they just released new episodes weekly after a certain point. So like for like the next 3 or 4 weeks after it came out, so you didn't have to wait months like The Walking Dead for a new episode because they deliberately released it piecemeal. But even though the game was already done fully on that end, so
Yeah.
that really helped that to keep momentum going on that. So now everything is out. You don't have to wait anymore for new episodes. Um, and also like the game was originally conceived as a TV show, and once they kind of got the no go to make it a TV show, they're like, okay, we'll just rework it into a game, and that really helped out a
That
lot
makes
in the
sense,
presentation.
because the visuals are like insane. Like, I never expected to see this. Is like a, you know, one of those Sony animation movie tier things, according to me. So, and when I see people saying, "Oh, this was amazing," I can't wait for Dispatch to like next year. I don't think it's gonna be so
I don't
soon.
think it's
Like
gonna be
this
next year.
this
No,
looks like
definitely not.
this the amount of animation work over here is just incredible, and they have to like take into account every choice you make, because I've had some decisions now where like some character is just not going to be there. So how do they handle those scenes where that character is in and stuff like that? So they have like, I don't know how long this was in dev. I'll probably look into it when I finish it, but yeah, it's just
It was in depth for
very
quite a long
impressive.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
it's pretty
and
cheap as well. It's like $30 for the whole thing. Like usually, like if you look at we'll talk about it in a bit, but like if you look at Life is Strange, the new one, or even the Lost Records game from Don't Nod, those were like $40-50. So yeah, this is quite a bit cheaper.
they weren't like planning to like make a sequel when this came out. Like if they're I'm sure they're planning to do it now, but since they're kind of working on maybe on a new thing for it, it's gonna be done from scratch. So it's gonna take a while for like it's not gonna be like it's not gonna be like, hey, it's gonna come out next year. It's like, definitely not. These things take time and effort, and and especially getting like the voice cast like schedules aligned again to like work on new voice acting for it. That will take time because getting people's schedules aligned takes a really long time. People are busy. Um, so it's one of those games that's been on my wish list when it came out, and I'll probably get around to it when like whenever the follow up is maybe nearer. So maybe in a couple of years. But it's an interesting one. Like I've heard really good things about it. Or definitely a lot of friends really enjoyed it. I think it's one of those games that maybe I'll get it to like maybe a year or two. We'll see.
I think the weekly release cadence, I don't want to say it was genius, but I think it was like a smart idea. And I kind of feel like the TV show comparisons and development pedigree kind of makes sense. Like the difference between like a weekly release show versus a show that's dropped all at once. And I know people have strong opinions one way or the other. I've always kind of fell in the weekly camp, just because like it gives you more time to like. This is gonna sound a little bit highbrow, but like critically think about what you're doing and like not just binge through it in like a TV show, and like it stays in the zeitgeist for a little bit longer. And for like we've seen other games with like episodic entries where people lose interest between episodes if there's like too much time between them. So the fact that if you were playing Dispatch as a release, you were never, there's going to be a new drop in less than a week by the time you finish an episode. And then you finish an episode and there's a new drop in less than a week. So I think it just seems like it paid off for them.
It
to have
really
it
depends.
that way.
I've thought about this for a while, and I guess for me it really depends on the style of show that you're making, or I guess style of game. But because I'm usually a weekly person, definitely in that camp. But let's say like the Walking Dead TV series, they had a format which was like really did not service them in the weekly format because they had like, let's say, three different groups, so three different protagonists with three different, like, yeah, they were like had three different factions. And let's say like they call it like Group A, Group B, and Group C. They had an episode format where it would advance the events of Group A, and then when that episode stopped, you wouldn't get back to Group A until like 3 weeks later because the next episode would be Group B, advancing. Then the next episode would be Group C advancing. So you wouldn't really be able to follow, like, get back to Group A's like storyline until like 3 weeks later, which really did not help it like in the weekly format. If you watched it in a marathon format, it would be way better because you would be able to get to Group A's events advancing faster. Because if you were following it weekly, you wouldn't be able to like get back to Group A's like current like state of events and interest until like 3 weeks later. Which really
No,
sucked.
that's a good example. No, I didn't think about that. I don't think I've watched a show quite like that, but that's a good example. So we do also have a few other features up on the site that were put up in the last week. This one I'm going to hand it off over to Adam, where you had an interview opportunity with respect to the upcoming Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, of course, one of those early February releases that we're looking ahead at. So you had a chance to speak to Takashi Ichikawa, who, to my understanding, is like a relative newcomer. This is his first game with a producer credit. He's producer on Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. He's got credits on like games like Dragon Quest Treasures and Dragon Quest 3 HD2D. But you had a chance to speak to him, and you were able to put up an interview feature with him. So, what are some of the takeaways from your chance to get to talk to Mr. Ishikawa?
Yeah, so this isn't a very long interview because we had like very select slots that were available. They're doing like an interview like round with various outlets of which we were able to participate. He said to me that he was kind of an assistant producer on Dragon Quest Builders 2 as well as Dragon Quest 11S. But this is his like first game as main producer. And so he's been in like the Dragon Quest team for quite a while, but this is his kind of like first chance at like leading the production of a game. And I kind of asked him some questions that I think were, kind of the more obvious, like questions. Like, first of all, like, why are you releasing this game now? The HD2D games of the Erdrick trilogy just came out. Like, that was not even 6 months ago, barely 3 months ago for 1 and 2 HD2D.
1 and 2, yeah.
Yeah, and the answer to that was basically that they just wanted to keep the momentum going, which I'm not sure if I'm really satisfied with that answer, but sure, why not? In terms of the like the visual style, I asked them directly, like, was this inspired by games like Fantasian, which I thought would have been a fair question to ask because Square Enix did publish the re-release of Fantasian, even though it's developed by Mistwalker. They refused to say what they were inspired by, but they basically said like Toriyama's art styles for Dragon Quest VII specifically had always been a little bit more stylized with shorter characters. They actually literally use the word shorter characters, and they felt like the dull aesthetic, which they call handcrafted style, just fit the game better. And then they also said kind of vaguely, we saw that people like this sort of art style. Again, don't know if I'm satisfied with that answer either. I asked him about the story structure. I asked him about like adjustments made to the game in terms of the scenario structure and battles and things like that. Kind of like how they build the game initially. They are trying to streamline it. I think they use the word streamline 3 different times in the interview. So that's definitely a goal, and I do think that is something to consider when playing through the game. Is like this is something that they explicitly are trying to do, is streamline it. Now we'll see how that turns out in the end. Not just scenario stuff, but things like you can avoid battles because they're not random battles. If an enemy is much weaker than you, you can just skip the battle entirely. You basically just defeat them on the field, and things like that. I actually had a friend of mine who is a huge Dragon Quest fan tell me that they were mad at the interview. Not my question. They were mad at the answer of the very last question I asked. So the last question I asked was basically summarizing it here. Reimagined makes a lot of changes that if you played the demo, you can see. Characters cannot like die. So in classic Dragon Quest games, if a character dies, they literally become a coffin that follows you around, and you have to revive them. Right? That doesn't happen anymore. There are no individual inventories, which has been like in every single Dragon Quest game, I feel like. So that means you can have access to all your items all at once. The user interface is, of course, completely different from any other Dragon Quest game. And I basically asked him, can you describe why you made all of these just like functional changes to these classic Dragon Quest elements? And do you think you risk disappointing like Dragon Quest fans? And he basically said, we're trying to please everyone. And also we talked to Yuji Horii. And that was kind of it. Like, okay.
Interesting answer.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think my friend, like I said, is a long-time Dragon Quest fan. They were kind of like, not necessarily upset, but kind of like, why are we changing all this stuff now? Like all these different elements, in terms of battles, in terms of look, in terms of just classic, features in Dragon Quest games. Yeah, I think they're probably looking for something more substantial than just we're trying to please everyone.
And also, our boss said it was okay.
Yeah,
because they checked with Yuji Horii.
I just think that like all these changes they've made to the UI and stuff, but they still have the save system like similar to the old one where it has like an auto save which the new games have, but to actually do a manual save you still have to do it the same old way. And then the music, it still has the same old sound effects. So like I don't get why they didn't like go all the way. Like they still were afraid to like make every single change and modernize every single aspect of it. And if you said like, right, he said that we wanted to do this to appeal to everyone, why not have a classic and modern like options in this? Or like, just because I believe that in the demo, based on what people have been saying and based on what I've played, it's still quite easy even if you play around with the difficulty settings. So you're not going to be able to get a challenging experience right now unless something changes in the full game.
Yeah, but basically, I think the best takeaway from the interview is that you can kind of see like the philosophy about the approach to what they're trying to accomplish with this game, and they may succeed in what they're trying to do. It's whether or not you thought it was the right thing to do. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like whenever I think about this guy, I just feel drained emotionally. I'm like, I just gotta play it for myself and find out, because the more ifs I think about, the more I get depressed. So I'm like, I'll just fucking play it. Who cares? Just fuck it.
Well, I think like I haven't seen this often, but I have seen it sometimes where you write a review, which is always just a person's opinion, right? And people say, well, that's what they wanted, so how can you criticize that? It's like, well, like it's almost beside the point, where it's just like, yeah, even if they succeed at something and your opinion on it is still negative, as long as you rationalize your opinion, you substantiate why you feel some way, like then it's valid. It kind of like, but it is good context to know that it wasn't, regardless of how Dragon Quest VII Reimagined turns out, like it wasn't a mistake. These changes are deliberate. There's a philosophy behind it, and then you criticize it from that point of view. You doesn't mean you have to like it. You can still look at the like Adam. You basically played two versions, or you played the most recent version of the game just like late last year, right? So you'll have a kind of a very recent point of view for comparing the two games together.
Yep.
About exactly to what extent they succeeded in their vision to that way. But
And it's also just like what like everyone has a different philosophy of what a remake should be, right?
Right. Right.
So that's the thing. We're all different people, different perspectives, different angles of what a remake should and shouldn't be. And also
Not
that gets muddied up on like modern expectations of like how do you appeal to like a modern audience as well. And when thinking about a remake of a game and what is different boundaries of what is and isn't acceptable. Like if it's a remake, like go all in, or should you? Who knows? It's such a
Well, we're
very
gonna have a
hard.
second verse of that discussion with Yakuza next month at the same time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. But Adam's interview with Ishikawa is up on the site at rpgsite.net. And then the last feature we have up here is Cullen and Mikhail both put up features related to Final Fantasy VII Remake, making its way to Switch 2. Cullen, our resident, Switch specialist, was able to talk about his time with the game in a pretty glowing fashion about saying that it feels right at home on Nintendo Switch 2. And then Mikhail, you did a very thorough Final Fantasy VII Remake, system comparison between PC, Steam Deck, and all the consoles. So what is your not a new game, of course, but what is your main thesis now that Final Fantasy VII Remake is available on Switch 2, in addition to all the other places it's been released?
So I was reminded that the PC port is still really, really bad. It's not seen
Really?
any improvement. Like when it came to the Epic Game Store, it shipped with like textures and shadows, I believe, and it was just low and high. And one of them was like the PS4 setting, and one of them was the PS5 setting. And I believe at that time the only advantage the PC version had over PS5 was you could run it at like, if you had the hardware, you could do like 4K and 120. It didn't go above 120 from what I remember, but if you had that, it would do that. But then it had like a lot of Unreal Engine stutter issues which were never fixed. Uh, when I played it on Steam Deck, and there was less stutter over there because like that's just how Valve and shaders and all that work. But it's a very bare bones port, and like coming into this after Trails Beyond the Horizon is like getting punched in the face, honestly, on PC ports. So yeah, PC port is still not great. I just, for some reason, I assumed now that Rebirth, like Rebirth shipped with more options, maybe they'd go back and do it here, but no. Even with the patch which arrived day before yesterday, they just added the streamlined progression. They didn't add anything else. So yeah, PC port still bad. I really like the Switch 2 version. Like, I I thought it was just going to be like one of those things where people exaggerate how like it's a PS4 game after all, right? But this is really good looking on the Switch 2 handheld. Docked, I don't think I'd play it because like I have access to a PS5 and Series X where you get like much better visuals and like 60 FPS. But it's like a one of the best looking Switch 2 handheld games I've played, like by far. And it, because of DLSS and how that works, it looks better than the Steam Deck and ROG Ally as well. Because one more thing about the PC version which I forgot to bring up earlier is, unless you mod it, it has forced dynamic resolution, which regardless of what's happening on the screen will just not look native. So if you're playing this without any PC mods, you're just getting a bad experience in general. So yeah, that was my takeaway from the PC version. I wasn't gonna like do this comparison without getting the PS4 version to compare the textures, and I did this funny headline like in the article, which was Final Fantasy VII Remake door comparison, and I literally like went to the same part of Clouds, like outside that apartment complex building thing. Then I took a screenshot, not a screenshot, I used the capture card to get the exact same, like how the door looks, and it still looks like dog shit on PS4 Pro. But yeah, like that's not a problem on Switch too,
I
so
had
that was good to
almost
see.
completely forgotten about the whole door thing. It's all coming back to me about that stupid indoor.
Yeah, like I remember playing it on PS4 like pre-release, and I was like, this game looks so nice, and then you get to some parts and the textures just don't load, and they never did. So, and you know what I did? I actually, because I had time and my PS4 Pro was in the other room, I literally stood outside the door and I left the console running for 2 hours, and I went and did other stuff. And I was like, let me see if this is actually a texture streaming issue or it's something else. No, it still didn't load. So yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that was Final Fantasy VII Remake. Did load times. It's just a very polished experience on Switch 2 and Xbox. If you've never played it and own an Xbox Series X, easy recommendation. As usual, the like Play Anywhere, so you get the Windows Store version, and that was a big headache to test. Like I actually spent more time with the Windows Store version than all the others combined, just because it took so long to download. Like it took me, I measured it. It took me 7 times as long to download from the Windows Store as it did on Steam on the same device on the same Wi-Fi network. And yeah, the Windows Store version also takes longer to load and all. It's just like, like Play Anywhere is good on paper, but it's almost never better than playing the Steam version. So yeah, that's another takeaway. And yeah, I've put numbers and a lot of images comparing handheld, PC handhelds, Switch 2 docked compared to PS5 Series X, and also yeah, give it a read if you're curious and haven't played it yet. Because I specifically tested the integrate part as well, not just the demo portion. So yeah.
Did the integrated part still work as well? Because I almost forgot that was PS5 exclusive, right?
Yeah, so the integrate part holds up frame rate wise well, but there are some textures where it's like I mean, I can't say in between PS4 and PS5 because there's no PS4 version of integrate, but there are some texture issues with the Switch 2 version, which are not there on PS5 and Xbox, which I'm a bit confused as to why this happened. I guess it's like a memory thing because the download size is the same across everything. It's like 90 point something. So this might be like a memory thing or what, but the one thing I can say is that the frame rate holds up well, and like they should have done 40 FPS. Would have been nice to have. But if you're okay with 30 FPS, it does hold up well. It's definitely better than playing it on PS4 and PS4 Pro. So there's that.
Cool. So yeah, we have those two features up on the site. One from Colin, one from Mikhail, both about Final Fantasy VII Remake on Switch 2, and in Mikhail's case, every platform. So if you haven't played that yet and you're interested and not sure where to get it, check those out. With that, we'll go. I believe that's all the articles and features we had. So we'll go into the news section for this week. The biggest headlines this week came out of the Xbox Developer Direct. So two titles that we have covered up on the site, I believe. These first two titles came from that showcase. The first one is a Xbox Microsoft published game. The second one is not, but was still kind of platformed at that showing. We finally got a detailed. I don't know if I should say detailed look, but a gameplay teaser for the long-awaited, long-listed Fable reboot from Playground Games. So, this game has kind of been brought up in several fashions over the years because it was, first announced quite a ways back. I'm going to look at our history here. 2020. I was going to say 3 years ago. No, 6 years ago, the Fable was first announced coming from Playground Games. So I actually did not watch this event live, but I did read the gameplay teaser and I did watch the gameplay teaser and I did read through their kind of PR framed interview for how Playground Games is approaching the title. Obviously, the original Fable games were from Lionhead Studios. This game is kind of like a reboot. It doesn't really have a direct chronological tie with the original trilogy. What they think makes a Fable game and what they tried to target with their new reboot. So underneath our site post on the gameplay teaser is a pretty long Q&A kind of framed thing about their approach with Fable. But what do you guys think when you first saw this at the Direct?
I think the first setting I'm gonna turn off in that game is camera shake. The combat in
It seems like a very Josh and a very Josh statement, but yeah.
I mean, I like the look of the combat. Like the camera's kind of zoomed out a little, but man, every impact hit with the weapon just shakes the camera like crazy, dude. I'm like, I kind of got a little nauseous watching the footage. To be honest, like man, this is a lot. But I mean, I know I can reliably trust Playground Games for including that option because they are a studio known for their accessibility options in their games. Even won awards about it. So it's I think they're going in the right direction with this reboot. Very talented studio, very ambitious pivot to an action RPG. Gonna be the first one because they're known for their Forza Horizon games. The new Forza Horizon looks great. They are definitely trying to carry on the spirit of the Fable games with this new game. Very much, hey, you can kind of create whatever kind of character you desire and where their morals lie. Because
They explicitly said
Fable,
you start as a child because that's very, Fable
yeah,
coded, is
for
that it's
sure.
about, like, growing into the hero.
Or anti-hero you want to be
Or yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
your decisions will have ramifications. Like if you purchase a property and dress all fancy, you'll have these rich traits on you. So when you approach someone in like frilly clothes and have a lot of money, they'll react accordingly to you. Which is very much Fable. They made a very they, they placed a very great emphasis on like, hey, there will be like 1,000 unique NPCs, and the way that like um you can start a life with them, can potentially get romantically involved with them. I'm like, that's very, I don't know. Like it should be very impressive, but there's something that's like kind of maybe rubs me the wrong way very faintly about it. It's like that's like I'm like, how do you get that to work? It seems very, 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 I don't know. It seems like overwhelming in a lot in some cases. Did you see that part of
Yeah.
like the gameplay teaser?
I only watched the shorter, like, 3-minute teaser.
Okay, yeah, but they
Oh.
they had like some portion of that was
Or
like,
so not
hey,
not not 3-minute, the 1-minute teaser, the very short one.
yeah, they play some messages like, hey, there's really like 1,000 unique NPCs that like you can kind of have very unique relationships with them. Huh?
Mm.
It's all
Yeah, I
very
did I did I
voice
did see
acted.
the thing about, they have 1,000 NPCs, none of them are, all handmade is the sales pitch.
Yeah.
I'm looking through, this press release or whatever you wanna call it, and the thing is, this feels like a conversation that comes up every year for the last 20 years, is they talk about, you can go anywhere and do anything, and they specifically say, like, "Well, I don't wanna head a direction and realize I'm not a sufficient level to go there." So, basically, they're talking around like there's gonna be scaling in some fashion, which is always kinda, we've seen it done very poorly in other games. Like,
Yeah.
Oblivion was a kind of a poster child for that. Obviously, that was kind of in a conversation again last year with that remaster. And I don't know, like, how I'm interested in soliciting your guys' opinion. Like, I'm totally fine with, like, "Oh, this area is a high level, I should come back." Like, to me, that's, like, not like a that's not a
Yeah.
showstopper, but it seems like they're trying to avoid that. Like, I don't want anyone to feel like they're like, I think the worst thing is sort of it doesn't matter which way you go because everything's gonna be on your level all the time. Like, there's it's so I think it can be done correctly, but there's so many ways it can be done poorly, or it's a very hard thing to balance and still make it
Yeah.
feel engaging.
Somewhat related, I remember when Xenoblade Chronicles Cross Remaster came out last year, and I saw some people complaining, like, how am I supposed to travel when there's so many dangerous enemies? I'm like, that's why it's fun. You have to, like, know where places are safe and which places are not. I don't know.
Yeah. I like segmented roles. Like I still think like the first Dragon's Dogma is still like a perfect like almost integration of that because it didn't like specifically mark places. It's kind of you knew where not to go because of experience. You saw trial and error in actions. Like I got fucked over here. Let's go in another direction.
Or
Like,
I headed to the catacombs instead of the undead burg, and,
yeah,
maybe I should go the other way.
yeah. Um,
And
I
it can be done okay. I wanna, like, say
yeah,
that.
for sure,
It's just that when I read that, I get more nervous than excited.
for sure,
Doesn't mean
absolutely.
it can't be done right.
I'm very curious about this new Fable, especially like how how much they're really placing it as like the world reacting to you. Like one of the example cases that they had in the showcase was like, hey, there's this giant that you can choose to kill or not early on. If you kill this giant early on, its corpse will always be there by this village, which can affect like living conditions there and can and the economy there, especially if you decide to become a landlord, in this game. Like it'll affect prices there because of this giant's corpse. Like might have environmental ramifications later down the line. And like, how much of that is going to be like really going to play into this game, or will it just feel scripted in a sense? Because I think one of the strengths of Fable is making things feel organic, even though underneath the underneath everything, there's gears, but Fable was able to capture it in a way where, especially like when it came out at that time, it felt very novel. How do you have the spirit of Fable in today's landscape and not make it feel like that the gears are turning behind? You know what I
Just
mean?
curious, who here has played like all of the original trilogy? Because I'm an outsider, I have not.
I played the original trilogy. I don't like have like pitch perfect memory of them, but I played.
It was a while
And
ago, yeah.
yeah, I think the second one's probably my favorite. They're great games. You know, they were very. They showed an aspect of like Western RPGs in a way that no one could back then because you
Mhm.
really did feel like it was your character. That's something that Lionhead really understood throughout those games. So I'm really curious. I'm very excited. For this game, very
And
much looking forward to
the
it.
one key piece of news key piece of news is that they did announce a window for release, that they're slating to release this in autumn. So, which is
Fun.
kind of interesting. I would have imagined this is like a holiday, like November release, but no, they've explicitly listed autumn. So half a year, 6 months away. The other game that was platformed at the Xbox Developer Direct, which, as I was preparing for this podcast, I watched it. I'm like, damn, I did not expect to be as interested in that as I was. Is Beast of Reincarnation got a new, pretty long look in and a new gameplay, a new kind of developer direct, 10-minute video, kind of going behind the scenes of this. This is the open world action RPG from Game Freak, Pokemon Studio. It was first shown at Xbox. I forget the name of it, the summer showcase or June showing last year. Um, and we kind of said, huh, it's always cool. It's not the first time Game Freak has gone away from Pokemon. They've done that frequently throughout their history, but this is the most, clearly the most recent time. And when I was watching this developer direct, I thought that it was just one thing I wasn't expecting is how open they were about like, as we developed Pokemon, they were, refer to it, very clearly in a video that has nothing to do with
They said
Nintendo or
pocket monsters a
Game Freak.
lot in that, and that is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Because
Um,
this is a video uploaded by Fictions to their YouTube channel. Fictions is the publisher that used to be called Private Division. They were under Take-Two. I don't know if they're still affiliated with Take-Two. They're Fictions now, and I think Beast of Reincarnation is either their first or second title under, because they only changed name like late last year from Private Division to Fictions. But they mentioned, we were inspired by Pokemon, or as I got approached by the producer, and I knew I wanted to work on Beast of Reincarnation because I thought, I was really driven by the vision of the project and just how open it was and how like
yeah.
here I am kind of stammering. I thought it was a really interesting developer direct. If you have any like interest in game development at all, it's a 10-minute video, and I thought it made me kind of excited for this game, not only because like the game looks neat, which I think it does, but just because like it does feel like sort of here's a game the Game Freak really wants to make when they're not like in Pokemon like
It was an
corner like
interesting like look at like because when you see that a new Pokemon is announced and like being developed, you don't really see the people behind the scenes ever when
that's
you
very like
develop.
Nintendo
Yeah,
like curated.
exactly. Yeah. Well, this one actually gives like a face and a name to the people who are creating like one of the biggest media franchises on the planet. You know, which is like that was really cool. It's like, hey, these are the people at Game Freak who actually do develop the Pokemon games. They're not doing completely something new, but using the lessons they've learned from Pokemon and applying it to like a completely new type of game that they want to make and are energetic to like explore and develop out. That's really fucking cool. Like that, this is a really great showcase.
One other thing is, I believe it was an IGN interview, had a chance to talk with the team for Beast of Reincarnation. They also mentioned that Game Freak is like leading the development, but it's actually a smaller team, and that there's a lot of like external studios also helping. So just wanted to mention that it's not just Game Freak, even though they are like in charge of it.
And they also kind of it's similar to Fable. They narrowed down a release window at the very end of the showcase that they're aiming for a summer release, so not too far away for Beast of Reincarnation. So I will say, just as I watched this kind of did shoot up on my like. When I was first shown off last year, I was like, "Oh, Game Freak's working on something different, neat." And now I'm kind of like, "Oh, Beast of Reincarnation this summer. I'm probably gonna play that. Like, I'm kind of excited for it now. So I'm interested to see how what they've got here." I think the last big announcement here, Mikhail kind of teased it or alluded to it ahead of time, is the announcement of Life is Strange Reunion. Now, I'm not the authority to talk about this because I've never played a Life is Strange game, but the big sale point here is that it's Max and Chloe playable together in a Life is Strange game for, I guess, the first time. I thought they were both playable in the original game, but maybe I'm misinformed.
They're trying to like say, oh, we're gonna give them the definitive or the ending you wanted or some weird ass marketing thing like that, which is kind of annoying because uh for a
I
lot
think
of
it's just a
people
li-
the
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was thinking like Yakuza Kiwami, where people can't stay dead, and they're just like unhappy with
Hey.
dead.
Continue, Miguel.
So with Life is Strange, what happened is the developers have changed. Like it's been Don't Nod and Deck Nine, and they've had
Yeah.
some games which one has made, some games where the other has made. For a lot of people, they like Life is Strange 1, like just Life is Strange. They like Life is Strange 2, which again was Don't Nod. But I don't know what's happened with the sales or what's caused Square Enix to like do different developers or like try these other things. But for a lot of people, like Life is Strange 2, and then Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, which was Don't Nod published. They like those three of them. But then there are others who like Life is Strange Before the Storm, which was the game which came out after the original, which I like that as well. Since then, what they've been doing has been hit or miss or whatever. People don't like the characterization or whatever. The latest one before the new one, which got announced, was Double Exposure. That has like the most people annoyed with what they've done because Max's character, the model is changed. Uh, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was like awful and stuff like that, but it's evident that like they don't know what they're doing with the IP anymore, and they're just releasing it because they have Life is Strange games. Like it's not hit the highs of, I'd say, even the first two games they released. So with Reunion, them trying to do this is like, oh, we're finally like, you've been saying you want this, so we're gonna give it to you. And that I don't like. I don't want games like that. I want you to tell me your story. Don't tell me what I want, and don't give me what I want. So that's my read on this situation where I'm just like, I don't know what to expect from this. At worst, I think I'll at least get some good music recommendations because those never let me down in the Life is Strange games. But I have no real hope for the actual story anymore because, like, I mean, anyone who's played the original Life is Strange and enjoyed it, you should not want this. Like, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I've seen a few editorials go up after the announcement, discussing this general idea, like the by fans for fans, like headline marketing, even in the press release, even on the blog post on Xbox Wire is very, like, it's not a great sales pitch.
Well, I mean, it's kind of it's a similar or related argument to what you talked about with the Dragon Quest thing. Like, we're trying to please the fans. Like, we're trying to please people. It's like you have to do that to some extent, but also you should have like a vision for the story you want to tell and the characters you want to make, not just what's going to make the most fans happy all the time. Like, because that's like an impossible vision in a lot of ways. So, at least in my opinion. And that is releasing relatively soon. It is, let me scroll up, March 26th for Xbox, PS5, and PC. And there's also, Mikhail mentioned Double Exposure. I guess there's a bundle. Since Double Exposure was only last year, right?
2024.
Okay, so 2 years ago. So we have written down that the Life is Strange Reunion is $40, but there will also be a deluxe, there'll also be a bundle for $60 with Double Exposure and Reunion.
No Final Fantasy costumes this time. They did that for Double Exposure in the deluxe edition, if I remember correctly. And what is the Final Fantasy 37 or something? I forgot which one that was in.
Final Fantasy 27 comes out next year, according to Deus Ex Human Revolution. So I made a joke on Blue Sky, like, we are going to get so many Final Fantasy games in the next 12 months. Like, we're, 10 games behind. We're going to get like 9 games this year.
Okay, start with 27.
Deus Ex Human Revolution takes place in 2027.
Oh, okay.
So, like, in that universe, we have like 10 Final Fantasy games we need to get to make it a reality.
Well, I mean, if the spin-offs count, maybe.
Also, on Life is Strange, like, as far as I understand, Life is Strange True Colors, which came out like a handful of years ago, is maybe not like considered like fantastic, but generally well liked, and had nothing to do with like the Max or Chloe thing, as far as I know. So the fact that they keep kind of going back to that well also kind of feels like unoriginal in a way.
People don't like
the
the new look
original?
for
There was
2
Before
either.
the
So
Storm, then there was Life is Strange 2, which is also like a separate story with new characters. Then True Colors was 2021. And this is me just kind of reminding myself. And then yeah, it feels like 2024 Double Exposure. They really kind of started going back to Max and Chloe, like what kind of put Life is Strange on the map, and now Reunion. It feels like doubling down on that. But I'm an outsider. I've not played any of these, so that's just me. That's just me reading off of Wikipedia. A few other trailers and announcements that have come up over the last week. Nioh 3, the other game releasing in early February, just released a long 17-minute like gameplay showcase that I watched through before the podcast. As I watched through it wasn't really anything like new in terms of like something we weren't expecting in general, except for the fact like new monsters, new characters, a fair bit of combat footage for like seeing like, oh, they're using the scythe in this game. And then if you wanted to like compare it to how the scythe worked in Nioh 2 and compare the combos and the stances, or it does kind of, I don't know if spoil is too strong a word, but it shows like, some unique boss designs, things like that. It almost feels like a trailer made out of like, it almost feels like B-roll, but I'm not really complaining because it's just kind of like you want to see what the game looks like and plays like. Here it is, with a little bit of talk about
Funny.
like the open.
Sorry, I just think it's a little bit of a funny like gameplay video because like it did its best to not show any menus or UI or anything like that. It
Well,
just
I
like
was gonna get to that. Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, my bad.
no worries. Like, I almost feel like whenever I see a game that doesn't show UI, like I don't want to be a broken record. Like, oh, RPG fans complaining that they're not showing UI again. But like, I was actually gonna bring up like, obviously they talk about it's an open world, but they don't show any like, I don't think they show any map or any progression or anything like what does this look like as you're progressing through the game. They speak to it. They say like you're clearing crucibles in the regions and the timelines, but they don't show like how does a player do that? Like it's all like if there was no commentary, this could have been any other Neo game with a conventional like level based system. They don't really show like the open world progression.
Yeah, so I previewed this game last year, right? And I think when you play Neo 3, based on my time with it, that's this like the world structure and like the region leveling up. We talked about it, how it like has like that Rise of the Ronin kind of influence from it. That's like very obviously the what's new and different here. Like that's in your face. It's there. It's unavoidable, and it's probably going to dictate how much you like this game compared to the others because that's what sets it apart. So the fact that they kind of avoided showing that or talking about it or very loosely talking about it is kind of like, I don't know. It's like that's the key decision you made in making this game.
I will say that not really related to that, but that there's an area where they show some platforming, and I was like, wait a minute, could you jump in Neo 2? Google, can you jump in Neo 2? No, you couldn't.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they added
they did
a
add
jump button.
jumping.
Yeah, that's the biggest change of this game. It's not the open world open zone exploration, it's the jump.
You can jump. Yep, that's why
Holy
Elden Ring
shit.
was so well received. Yep, but it definitely does look like a Neo game. But yeah, it does come back to like, how does that open world progression feel? Does
Yeah,
that feel good, or am I just gonna wish it was more like Neo 2? Go
It's
ahead.
either gonna be
I gotta admit that I'm a bit worried after like going through Rise of the Ronin. It's like, oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think me and you played Rise of the Ronin about the same time. Like Adam watched me play a good chunk of it, and then I saw that you were on Blue Sky talking about it. And yeah, the open world part didn't really. I wasn't sold on it. And yeah, here's a chance to iterate and maybe do it a little better. But
there's
I'm
no.
not excited for it.
I feel like this game has like a really weird like pendulum swing. It's like it's either gonna be either a really very disappointing Neo game, or it's gonna be one of the best action RPGs this year, and there's no in between. It's like
Yeah, I guess the only in between are going to be like in the whatever ways you can ignore the open world if possible, like in the parts where if they're like legacy dungeon or whatever the equivalent is, maybe that's the crucibles, like in those little vertical slices are great because they're classic. Classic the right word? They're conventional Neo, but everything else we'll see if they stick the landing for that progression. Here's one that you added to the podcast that I can't really speak to. It's a dungeon crawler RPG that was recently announced. Demon Kill Demon Yomi 1984, related in some way to the 2020-2021 game Undernaut's Labyrinth of Yomi. So what is Demon Kill Demon Yomi 1984?
It's the
Take it away,
next game coming from Experience. So far, it's only announced for Switch in Japan, coming on May 28th. I mean, I can't really speak to like how it's related to Undernauts, but it does look really freaking cool. James and Adam, you have more insight into it.
I think that when they say these games are like related, it almost doesn't matter. Like they swear
Yeah.
that like all their games are like in the same universe. You know, Stranger of Sword City and Undernauts and that other one whose name I forget that was bundled with Stranger of Sword City.
Savior of Sapphire
Yes,
Wings.
like they're all technically in the same universe, but it's so loose it practically might as well not be.
Yeah. I will say that I'm excited for this because the gameplay, like the core gameplay loop and like the combat of Undernauts is really, really good.
Yeah, it's one of the best ones.
I do think that it's a little disappointing that it doesn't seem like it's using the same artist as Undernauts, because that was absolutely that game's like strongest appeal, was just how fucking beautiful the 2D artwork was.
Remember when they did Stranger of Sword City and then in one of the re-releases they added like the anime option?
God,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's not quite that like bad, but I am getting the vibe. I am getting the vibe.
I'm still kind of salty with what they did with what was it, Radiant Historia, the remake of that, the
Oh, yeah.
remaster, where
Was
they
that the one where you had to buy the old portraits as DLC?
yeah, that was fucked up. They're like the new portraits are like it's okay. I personally don't like it as much as the old one. They're like, oh, here's the old one for you can just pay money for it for DLC. I'm like, that was definitely one of Atlas's lowest points amid an ocean of low points in monetization.
A couple other updates. Here's another upcoming game related topic. Code Vein 2, of course, is not even a February game. That's an end of January game. That's less than a week away. They did release a character creator demo for this game, which, if I remember right, Code Vein 1 did the same thing. Did it? Am I misremembering that? I
God,
think
if
it
they
also had a
yeah.
I think Dragon's
Good
Dogma
question.
had
but
one.
Mhm.
a
Yeah,
few
for
games
sure.
have done it. It seems like a pretty fun way for a demo. I've not played Code Vein 1, so when I saw that Code Vein 2 had a character creator demo, I was like, oh, that's neat. People are gonna share like, making I've already seen like people make the the James Cameron Avatar aliens or different like anime characters or
Yeah,
things like that.
I've seen like a
But
Made in Abyss character, like the one that wears the crazy helmet. I saw Zero from Code Geass. People are mimicking some Toho characters. Um, the okay, this is a crazy find that I shared in staff chat earlier today. But one of the things I found out was Kenji Anabuki, the director of Scarlet Nexus. So he shared that he recreated Yuito from Scarlet Nexus in the Code Vein 2 character creator demo. I'm like, that's cool. He's still rocking it. And even Adam mentions like, man, he saw his at Scarlet Nexus in his Twitter handle. That's how you know he's still a trooper. I'm like, and I remember Anabuki, it used to do like one Scarlet Nexus screenshot a day thing, and that got into the hundreds. And I'm like, oh man, like he really like I thought he stopped doing that years ago. I thought like at a certain point he went on to his next project and like it was like he did some work on the Tales of Arise story DLC thing that they did. It's like, oh okay, he's like done, right? And then apparently this man has never stopped doing that one Scarlet Nexus screenshot a day thing on his personal social media. He's like on day 1871. I'm like, there is no bigger fan of Scarlet Nexus than the director of it, and you will never take that away from him. And I think that's a beautiful thing that he's the biggest fan of his like work, and like he believes, and I support him 100%. To be honest, that's like such an amazing thing.
I take this as evidence that Scarlet Nexus 2 is still being worked on. We have to go. We have to go to the moon.
We must go to the moon.
That's what they tease at the end of the game. The moon is where all the answers are.
That's just real life right there. We must go to the moon.
the other two comments that I saw on the Code Vein 2 character creator is like, I guess the character creator demo is like 25 gigs, which is either equal to or almost as big as like the whole original game. It's like, why is this character creator 25 gigs? It just
I mean, did you
is,
see
right?
those PC spec requirements?
I guess I didn't for the creator.
Well, just for the game, Code Vein had pretty high requirements.
Oh, that
It
one.
seemed kind of Code Vein 2 seemed kind of like, why is it so high?
And then the only other
Unreal
thing I
Engine
saw,
5.
Yeah, probably.
like I saw that the reception on Steam was like negative, and some people say like it's censored or whatever, but some people just said like it just doesn't feel like there's as many options as there used to be. Like like the variety of characters are not there, or they couldn't quite get as much fidelity as they could on the previous character creator. So I don't have enough like direct insight to like have the comparison, but I was surprised to see that like, oh, some people really think character creator is like limited. So
I can kind of see like like using the term censorship aside, which isn't really like the proper term, but I do understand like kind of the disappointment from some people who really dig the first game's character creator, and like some of the options in there was like, hey, some of the clothing options had panties on the characters, and panties are like a totally normal thing that real people were aware, and now this game like has some either identical or like the same options, but they wear spats instead of panties. It's like, and like some people do like like having that option as part of their fashion design for their characters, and like because that's a totally normal thing to wear. I'm like, I get it. And using censorship for that, maybe not the proper term, but I kind of get that same. Well, I understand where the disappointment is coming from that like artistic sense.
no, I get that. I was trying to interpret the like review some of the review comments without knowing specifically what they're referring to, because a lot of the language is very
Oh yeah, I
charged.
get. Yeah, absolutely. I get you
So
from that. Yeah, some people
yeah,
are very
yeah. So
hyperbolic and like stupid about the way they verbalize shit like that.
yeah, so like yeah, it was very very charged language, and but even between even the charged language, there are people just saying like they can't get the characters, like they can't even get the character that they had in the first game. Like they can't even
Yeah,
like
no,
the number of options are less, or they're not
that
as
makes
good, or
sense.
the fidelity is worse. So
Mhm.
all up and down the spectrum, it seems like the reception's been kind of a bit muted on the character creator. So like I wasn't expecting to see that, so I was just kind of making a note.
Speaking of, not so great reception to demos of unreleased games, Brian.
This one I actually don't know about. I'll need you to tee me up. I've read a
Mhm.
lot about the upcoming Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties, leaks and other things, and of course, that game is coming out relatively soon. But I don't know specifically about the demo. So what are you teeing me up here for?
So yeah, the demo for Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties came out, and people are kind of not jazzed about it for a number of reasons. One, it does have like that weird auto exposure from Pirates Yakuza in Hawaii, where some darker areas, like if you're traveling down a hallway or a street that's like in the shadow of a building, it feels weirdly brightened up because the game auto exposure is trying to do auto exposure lighting for it. So there are definitely some parts, especially some screenshots floating around, where the game looks way too bright for what the environment is, and that looks like it kind of looks like a fake video game in that aspect in some of those screenshots because of the weird auto exposure thing that it tried to do in Pirates Yakuza in Hawaii. I forgot if the man who erased his name did this as well. I don't know, but definitely really you could tell in Pirates of
Are you
Yakuza.
talking about like the effect, like when you go from an interior location to an exterior location, like it blooms up quite bright and then dims out? Is that what you mean?
So yeah, but like
Just
but even does
implemented poorly.
but even though it does this like in outwards environment, even beyond that, like that
Hmm.
transition from leaving a building to outside. But yes, so there's definitely some weird screenshots like it does. It is also from like this demo is from an old version of that build, an old build of that game. So who knows how the final game, if it'll fix that or not. But that doesn't feel great. Some people criticize kind of the combat of it, where it kind of feels like Kiryu is too magnetized to enemies in the way that he's doing his combo strings, and the way that there's some battle animations that feel like they don't transition properly from another. So it kind of the combat itself kind of looks a little bit jank, um, just from like both feel of it and look of it. It feels off. Like I said, this from a old build of the game, so I don't know if that's straightened out in the final release or not, but that doesn't make a great impression. Even like the new combat styles and Mine's Dark Ties gameplay, like people, I don't know, they aren't really feeling it. And let me tell you, there's no way to say like this is like the worst of it. Like Kiwami 2 Kiwami 2's combat felt ass. Let's be honest, it did not feel good. So I kind of get it.
I remember at the time, if I remember my timeline right, a
Mhm.
lot of it was kind of either attributed or partially attributed to it was a new engine. It
Right.
was either first or second game of the new engine, and like I do remember the comments about about it not feeling like as good as like Kiwami 1, which was on the classic engine.
Right. Yeah, I think there's like some new gameplay systems behind the scenes here where like they did some stuff with the game, like the gameplay feel to kind of make it feel different, but I don't know.
They added some of the pirate Yakuza mechanics, like the bug catching stuff, and I was like, why?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Kiwami
I
2
don't know
was
if
the
that's even
second game with Dragon
accessible.
Engine after 6.
6,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, just reminding myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think everyone played Kiwami 2 on PS4 because like it wasn't like PC at that time until much later, and uh it was like pushing PS4 quite a bit. Like I obviously, like when I played Kiwami 2 originally, I tolerated it and stuff, and I played it on base PS4, I think. So like now when I was like revisiting it on PS4 Pro for an article, I was like, how did I tolerate this back then? But yeah, that's just how these things go. But yeah, in addition to what Josh said, uh, the visuals, it's like everyone's like fixated on that one comparison screenshot because the lighting is like completely broken and dog shit in that one area. So it looks like you're going from a game which is like decent baked lighting to a game where the lighting doesn't load. So it literally feels like you're playing an Unreal Engine 5 game with no lighting at all. So there are no shadows, nothing, no reflections or anything. But the rest of the game, I'm not justifying what they did, but the rest of the game just kind of looks like Infinite Wealth and Pirate Yakuza and Hawaii. So it has all those faults, but it doesn't look worse than those games, at least according to me, based on what I've played. It's just this one part looks really bad, and uh, I'm just confused as to why I haven't played the Dark Tides or Dark Ties thing yet. I just wanted to check out how karaoke was in this and just play this, but uh, like I'll say one thing though, like the shinies on the ground in Yakuza 3, like Kiryu takes like 45 minutes to bend over and pick up something. Over here it's instant. Now I'm happy about that. Like that's the only good thing I can say right now. Like the in that sense I like what they've done, but I don't know, like the demo is there's also like how Josh said this is an early build, so we don't know what the final game. There's like cutscenes which they've removed from the demo which are already there in gameplay videos, so I'm not sure what the point was of releasing a demo which is not even a representation of that opening moment of the game properly. So like this demo I feel like is doing more harm than good for them just based on the reactions online.
And I won't really get into it. There's been some, murmurs and some talk that the people who data mined the demo, like apparently, supposedly the ending of Kiwami 3 and Dark Tides are in there in some fashion, whether it's like the dialogue or maybe even cutscenes, depending on how people have thoroughly data mined it. And from all the rumors that have like been circling around, like based on like what people found in the data mines, if this is actually true, I'm very curious to see where people land on it. If all the things that have been revealed supposedly about the endings of both Kiwami 3 and Dark Tides is true. If so, I'll have more to say about it if I see it for myself, play through it myself, and find out. Like,
So I have a question for you based
yeah,
on this. Obviously, without getting into the spoilers, you played Yakuza 2 and you played Kiwami 2 and you don't like Kiwami 2. So do you think what you've read about Yakuza Kiwami 3 is as much of a like change compared to what they did with Kiwami 2, or is it
if
like
this
a
is
whole
true,
other
if
thing?
this is true, what they did based on on these things, I think this is easily worse than what they did
Okay,
from
fine.
to the Kiwami 2 easily by a mile.
You guys already talked about last week the original game only being available in like the big giant bundle.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
I
yeah, yeah.
actually provided a screenshot in the voice channel chat when we described it, where I don't have 3, 4, and 5 remastered on my Steam, so I was like, well, okay, let me go click add to cart on this. What will it look like? And I have no way to purchase that complete bundle because I already own Yakuza 0, 1, and Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2. Uh, from that bundle. So there's no way for me to actually purchase that bundle because I own those. So if I if Yakuza 3 Remastered gets delisted and I can only buy it from that complete bundle, that means I effectively cannot buy buy Yakuza 3 Remastered at all because I already have some of those things from that bundle, so I can't purchase that bundle because I don't.
I found the Steam DB entry where they changed the bundle type in like they've changed the bundle type twice and restricted gifting and stuff. I'm posting it in the staff chat because they did this around the time when they replaced Yakuza 0 with Director's Cut. And the last change is 19 days ago as of this recording, which would be 5th Jan, which I think is before they announced this change, but the bundle type was changed 19 days ago to purchase as set. So yeah, that I
complete
believe
Deliberate. It was a very
Yeah.
deliberate decision. It's not an accident. Hi. Yeah, this is
So basically, it feels like they're trying to thread the needle of they don't want people to actually buy or play the original Yakuza 3.
10 million
They're-
%.
Yeah.
They're like it's kind of like speaking out of both sides of their mouth. They're like it's technically available under like a whole series bundle, that B that is unavailable to many people who already own an entry or two on the bundle.
Yep.
So
And how many people own Yakuza 0 like alone on PC? It's like
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
that won't affect this though because they removed that and replaced it with Director's Cut. So you can, I think I think people who have 0 can still buy this now, but I'm not sure because I own all the games on Steam.
But now I have Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2 Legacy. Both of them are under Legacy. I'd have to pay like $2 to get them to like the new versions of them.
I wonder. I guess one thing you can do, which you shouldn't fucking have to, is you can ask Steam to remove those games.
Yeah,
like
you
Yakuza-
can. Yeah.
Insane. Amazing. This is
And this is a company that has been on Steam and released like Japanese games before many of the other big publishers, knows the importance of like reviews, knows the importance of how that affects your search on the algorithm and stuff. And they delisted the pages for like Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2. Yakuza 0 probably had more reviews than like many of their Total War games, but yeah, that's what they're doing.
But the thing is I'm sure that the whoever was in charge of this decision wasn't in charge of those decisions like a decade ago. I guarantee it.
I can see.
So I was just trying to remind myself. I think we already talked about this, but I was just reminding myself, like, yeah, Yakuza Zero's Steam page is still there, thankfully. So it's like, wow, Yakuza Zero, overwhelmingly positive with 50,000 reviews. Yakuza Zero Director's Cut, mixed, 700 reviews.
You can't access the Yakuza 0 page on Steam unless you get the link directly. So if you search for it on Steam, it doesn't show up, I believe. But if it's cached on SteamDB and on Google search, and if you have the direct link, it'll still work. But you can't actually search for it as far as I know. I don't know why they didn't just do what BioShock did, where they added the remaster as an app to the original, or like if you buy it, give you both and like, keep a bundle. But they've just made it somehow worse than what the Outer Worlds did, where like I still
did
don't
System
know.
Shock do? Isn't System Shock
System
like,
Shock
you
2
buy the 25th
System Shock 2
anniversary
removed the
remaster and-
standalone. Yeah, they removed the original cheaper non-remaster version and made it so that you can only get that if you buy the remaster, which costs more. So you still get both
but
together
still,
and the
you
page
buy
is
the
visible.
remaster,
Yeah.
and inside of that executable, you can play the 1999
No.
version.
You just get both apps added to your Steam account if you buy it.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Still a better
it's not
solution
like what
than
Bethesda
what
did.
they
What you're saying is something Bethesda does with the like Doom and Quake and not Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake and Heretic and Hexen. What they did is if you own the original, they updated it to now have like on Steam. It asks you, do you want to play classic or do you want to play remaster? So like that again would have been a nice solution, but Sega's like, no, we delist the old one. That's it.
The Yakuza series and Persona series are just both classic examples of you became too important at work, so you're not a tentpole franchise, so you will be treated like one. But for better and for worse.
Most of the rest of the headlines for this week are pretty quick, so we'll kind of rattle right through them. This one, I think we kind of all saw coming based on the communication from last year. But New World, Aeternum, is going to be shutting down its servers on January 31st of next year. So, and it's delisted, I believe, as of now. So, like, you can continue to play it if you own it for one more year. Kind of sad because it always felt like it was moderately successful, but clearly not to the level that Amazon needed it to be.
Yeah. At least they're giving people quite a bit of a heads up, like in
Yeah.
advance. That's good. Good on them on that.
Yeah, at least their
Sucks.
communication's been clear, but it still sucks.
Yeah, it's still it's still kind of baffling because there's still like ancient MMOs still running to this day.
Mhm.
But Amazon wants to see the big bucks, and if you're not doing that,
I guarantee it's not even so much that the game hasn't been successful or it's even still successful. It's that they want to use that infrastructure for AI data centers.
oh man, I
Would
didn't
not be
think about that.
surprised.
That's even more
Ooh,
messed up.
I don't like that. I don't like that you said that and you're like, oh fuck, I didn't think of that.
Ugh.
The worst part is that that's probably pretty likely to be like a big part of that calculus.
You're not wrong. You definitely are wrong.
One quick sales update. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon has hit 1 million sales across all platforms.
Cool.
Yeah. A couple dates. This one I thought was interesting. I saw Mikhail mention it in our chat here. Final Fantasy II is coming to Game Pass on February 3rd. Why is it specifically Final Fantasy II? Like what? Like am I
One is
missing
already
context
in
there? Or is-
there.
Oh,
No.
okay.
One is already in there, and I think they're just gonna like do them as like
Roll them
split
through.
up into
Yeah.
6 different Game Pass drops, so that they can pad out how it looks on when they say we're adding new games to the
That's
service.
funny.
But this also
That's pretty good.
this also probably like gives people, I don't know how many people are going to do it, but it gives people time to like play them, and then you can play 2 next. And I don't know, let's see if they do 6. I'll be like, that's the one which I assume a lot of people want out of these. It's not my favorite of the 6, but that's the most popular one, so I want to see if they actually do that or they stop at like 5 or something. But yeah, they've just started like with 1. They started before, now there's 2. Let's see if February has 3. So yeah,
I wanna hear from the person who is subbing to Game Pass just for Final Fantasy 2. I want to hear from them. I want to know them. Like, hey, is this finally the thing that got you to finally subscribe to Game Pass? Final Fantasy 2?
It's a saga game in all but name, so I get it. Warframe is launching for Android on February 18th. So I wasn't expecting that, but there you go.
Okay, I have a
I'll
question.
do a Night Abyss.
Yeah, yeah, the child's getting to where I'm at, but why not iOS and only Android?
it's
Mikhail?
been out on iOS for a while.
Oh,
That's why.
I had no idea. There you
Yeah,
go.
and the iOS version is like fantastic. It's like better than playing the Switch version on Switch 2 even now. And they added like it launched, it was a little like, they did a port, it ran and it looked fine, but it was like a bit bare bones and all, but then they like patched it so much and like it became amazing. So they even did like proper touch controls if you want to play the whole game with touch, or you can attach a controller and all. And for Android, they said there's so many different devices. We want to make sure we do it right. So they partnered with someone and they did closed tests, and they did like these whatever like alpha, and then they finally like are getting to a point where they want to
That's sick.
release it.
Nice.
Yeah, so they said with the Android version now it'll be playable on every current platform in some form. And then they said the native Switch 2 version is coming later in Q1 2026. They'll announce the date, I believe, next month. So it's probably going to be before end of March. But yeah, the Android version is the big news, because you can already play the Switch version on Switch 2. Doesn't look as good as it should, but it's still playable. But Android was like their last player base, which, or like last audience which they couldn't reach. So they're addressing that, and they are doing another big update in March as well. So like they're like firing on all cylinders since the last few years.
How does this make you feel as a fellow Do It Night Abyss player?
I won't quit. It's they got a lot of catching up to do.
How do you feel as someone who's trying to be somewhat in the? I guess saying Warframe competitor to Do It Night Abyss is like not. They're not even the same universe at this point, but it's just It's just like, man,
I
what
get
are
where
we
you're coming
doing?
from.
What are we
Yeah.
doing? What are we doing? Oh, do it, Night Abyss. Okay, we need to stop complaining about this game here. We do it too much.
Here's one that I guess I shouldn't be surprised by, but I did see the headline like, "Oh, that's finally happening." GreedFall: The Dying World, or GreedFall 2: The Dying World. Huh, I noticed that it,
They got rid of the 2.
the I was gonna say, like, we have is this an older box art? Like,
That's
okay,
so
it's not a new
funny.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll have to get an art we must have, like, the early access box art on our CMS, because yeah, I didn't realize they dropped the 2, but okay, Greedfall: The Dying World, previously Greedfall 2: The Dying World, released in early access late in 2024. It was a game that I was kind of interested in because I thought the first game was, like, promising, had an interesting concept potential, rough around the edges, could really be improved upon a sequel, all that sort of thing. And then they decided to go the early access route. They changed publishers from Focus Entertainment to Nacon, however you pronounce that French one.
To be clear, they didn't just change publishers. Nacon bought them or own them now.
Own
Oh, okay.
Spiders. I forgot
Yes.
about that. So yeah, so same developer. Previously, Greedfall was published by Focus Home. And now it's Nason. They released an early access. From what I could tell, the early access release was pretty like not well received, primarily due to changes with like the way combat worked. Where Greedfall's combat wasn't like the reason I thought it was interesting, but it was a pretty typical like over the shoulder third person action RPG. Where Greedfall 2, or previously formerly known as Greedfall 2, is more like a Dragon Age Origins kind of top view real time with pause, which can work well, but apparently just like wasn't working well, in the early access period. They've announced that it's releasing in full release, like version 1.0 on March 10th for PC, and then a couple days later for the consoles, like March 10th for PC, March 12th for PS5 and Xbox Series, and then March 19th for PS5 in Japan. So kind of a staggered release across platforms and regions. Along with the release date announcement, they did give a little bit of a gameplay overview. And the first half of the overview is like I'm nodding along, where it's just like, okay, they're setting it slightly differently. Instead of being in like a new world and you're kind of in like the European like analog role, that you're playing as a native of Tier 4D and you're brought over to, your conquerors, and you have to go from that perspective. Like, oh, that's interesting from its face. But then they go into the gameplay, and I kind of like, oh, that is very different from what I'm expecting from this, because I never played the early access. So I'm interested in this just to see like what did they come up with here. Like, but I can kind of see like maybe why the reception was what it was when it came to early access on this, because
Yeah. You want to know something funny? I was also interested. It's like, hey, how are people feeling about this game? So yeah, when you go to the Steam forums for this game, it still says Greedfall 2: The Dying World in the Steam forums. I wonder if that can be changed or not. That's funny.
So I guess they're really kind of positioning it as like a side story or spin-off or something. I don't
Maybe.
quite know. It's an interesting decision. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely play this, but almost like I hope it's at least as good as the first game. Like, because the first game was pretty all right. So
I
we'll
want
see.
to know why they changed the name. Why did it take off the 2 in the name? That's actually what I really want to know.
I think they had a Steam post about this, and I believe it mostly came down to the fact that it was like it's Greedfall 2, but it's a prequel. Like it takes place before Greedfall, and that was confusing. So no longer Greedfall 2.
Well, what
Nah, I
about
can get
Dragon
that.
Quest 3?
Or
That's different.
Batten Kaitos 2.
Yeah, true.
They did change
Uh-huh.
that in the West. They were like, we can't call it Batten Kaitos 2 in the West. That's confusing to Western brain.
Yeah.
Oh, was Origins a Western like
Yes, because
adopted
that
title?
game is called Batten Kaitos 2 in Japan.
Oh, I didn't know that. So maybe Greedfall will be called Greedfall 2 still in Japan when it releases on March 20th. Seven Deadly Sins Origins was supposed to release on January 28th. It's getting pushed back to March. We don't even know when in March, just in March.
I think we vaguely talked about that, but it's just formalized as a news post.
Mhm. And then we also got a release window for Aether and Iron. This is a narrative RPG that Josh, you were able to go hands-on PAX West, I believe, or
Yeah,
maybe it was.
pretty extensive. Like I wrote a preview for it.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was a preview or I think it was just the interview with a little mini preview on it, but it was a pretty extensive interview with a narrative designer on it, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, it's a pretty ambitious game. Like, they aim for it to be fully voice acted, and it's like and its presentation is very Disco Elysium esque. You know, it's definitely it's not shy about where its inspiration is, but I got very curious about it because of the way that they are they've designed this like futuristic New York. So it's like it's still like in 1930s New York, but has futuristic technology on it, and you play as a detective. So it's pretty neat. I'll definitely play it.
So they announced that it's going to be releasing in spring. But as far as I can tell, Mikhail, like this is the trailer attached to the announcement on our site is an old trailer because the announcement didn't have any accompanying media other
That's
than
correct.
it's coming out.
That's the
Other than
trailer
it's
which
coming
they
out in
had in
spring.
the. Yeah, that's the trailer they
Yeah.
had in the announcement in the email, and it's the old trailer.
Mhm. All right, and that's all the headlines we have. So I'm looking at the calendar. Next week will be the last, already 1 month down in 2026. I guess we're not going to be talking about uh, Seven Deadly Sins because that won't be out
Yeah.
by next. I don't know if we'd actually talk about that anyway.
Maybe Code Vein.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see on
I
that one.
guess.
So we'll be recording the day after Code Vein comes out. So we might have an opportunity, but it depends if we're in a place to be ready to talk about that. So next week, potentially Code Vein. Week after is when everything starts. You know, Dragon Quest, Nioh, all the things we talked about. Yakuza Kiwami the week after that. So looks like a pretty regular cadence for next couple weeks for the Tetracast topics. But we do have just one final run through. We do have Chow's Arknights Endfield review up on the site, rpgsite.net. Adam's chance to speak to Dragon Quest VII Reimagined producer Takashi Ichikawa up on the site. A couple features for Final Fantasy VII Remake as it got released on Switch 2. Of course, all the details out of the Xbox Direct, such as Fable, piece of Reincarnation. You can follow us on all the social media sites. Just search for RPG space site, and you should be able to find us. We have a Discord, discord.gg/RPG site. On whatever service you listen to this podcast on, leave us a like, leave us a rating. We'd love to see those. Leave a comment as well. I think I covered everything. I step away for a week. I'm like, what are all the things I got to run through at the end? I think I got it all. But we'll be back next week with another episode of the Tetracast. So until you hear from us next time, stay safe, take care. We'll see you next week.